Today, we're going to talk about my next trip plans, heading off to Nepal and India, some of the ideas that I have for that trip, and some of the obstacles that are still in my way. Hello there, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ian, known as WanderBeard around these parts. And it has been a little bit since you've last seen me on camera, so I thought I would give you a bit of an update today. Some travel plans that I'm sort of working through to get ready for, and some of the obstacles that I still face with my next trip. So as you know, if you've been following my channel for a while, some of the things that I do like to talk about quite a bit are, adventure travel on a budget, wandering new and interesting places, and seeing what the rest of the world has to offer. And I feel like over the last couple of years, I've done a pretty good job of that. I, was able to take my time and spend many months wandering through Mexico, spending months in places like Nicaragua and Panama and Costa Rica and Guatemala and others. And I had a remarkable journey during that time. I loved pretty well everywhere that I've been and remember it all fondly. But after a couple of years of traveling through those areas, I've also decided that it is time to go somewhere else. And so that's what I've been working on. Now, if you've seen one of my videos from a while back where I talked about a few different things, particularly around the idea of Project 10,000 for me. And so this is sort of a pickup from where we left off. I've been home now for a few months. I've been enjoying the time here with my family, with my friends. I've made a reconnection of sorts with an old girlfriend of mine named Lynn, who I've been really enjoying my time with. And we've been spending a lot of time together, catching up, making new memories, so to speak, and just having a lovely time. We actually first dated back when I was in high school, which was many years ago now, but this time feels very different. It feels more grown up, and it's been a pretty amazing time, I'm not gonna lie. Also, while I've been home, I've been getting a lot of work done on my website, wanderbeard.com, adding lots of local travel guides, adding, all the hotel reviews are done, and so much more. And so I've been really working hard to kind of build that out as a resource and providing all that information for free. Nothing's behind a paywall, nothing's locked behind a checkout or anything like that. It's all available to you there for all the places that I've traveled to. If you want to check out any information on places to stay, things to see, links to all my videos, and photo galleries, which I'm currently building out from my travels. I took over 12,000 pictures in 2 years while on the road, and I thought it would only make sense to share some of that with you, and so that's why I've been building out those photo galleries, because I think it's a really cool way to kind of see the day-to-day life in many of those places that I've been to. So what's next? Well, my plan as of now in the fall is to head over to India and Nepal. I mentioned prior that I was going to attempt to do the Everest Base Camp hike, which I will talk about in a moment, as well as check out about, let's say, the northern half or so of India. There are many places in India that I have wanted to see for a very long time, and the country is too big to do it all at once. So I thought it best makes sense to kind of split it into two, tackle the northern half as part of this trip, and then save the southern half for a future expedition. So, for example, some of the places I'm going to plan on visit, and I apologize in advance if I do pronounce some of these incorrectly at the time. I'm going to work on that and make it better so that when I get there, I'll sound like I know what I'm talking about. So while not an exhaustive list, some of the places I'm planning on visiting in the northern half of India, such as Dharamshala, Chandigarh, Shimla, Kashmir Valley would be another one, for example, Srinagar, and then of course the major capitals, you know, New Delhi and other places like that. I have about 15 to 20 places at the moment on my list, which I'll put on the screen here so you can kind of see the destinations I sort of have planned. And I don't really have a timetable yet for how long in each place, but then again, I've never really been about a timetable either. You know, I've gone somewhere and quite often have added extra days because I like a place so much and I want to see more of it. So that's probably what I will do in this case also. But I'm really excited about it. I think that, as I said, you know, there are some amazing places to see in India. I would like to go over and kind of give you the, you know, the on the ground experience. I think there are a lot of strong opinions, both positive and negative, towards visiting India. And I'd like to just see it for myself, show it to you, and let you decide for yourself also. So I'm very excited about that. India is a very beautiful country. You know, there's lots to see. It's very chaotic at times, of course. But I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be amazing. So the other big part, of course, of this trip is the Everest Base Camp hike. That's how this whole trip idea sort of surfaced to begin with. I had this idea quite a while ago to do this hike, and it's about 14 days. If you don't know, the Everest Base Camp hike is not a hike of Everest itself. It is a hike that sort of starts in Kathmandu, and then you typically fly up to the airport in Lukla, where you then continue on your journey from there. As of last year, you're now able to go overland up to, well, near Lukla. There's been some new roads added. There are some 4x4 trekking opportunities to get up to there. It is a very bumpy, bone aching 10 to 12 hours through the mountains. But I think it would be a rewarding experience to see that and to experience that rather than just flying up. So that is sort of the first plan that I have. Some of the things you have to be considerate of when you go and do this hike: altitude is the number one. You know, you are traveling most of the time 2,500 meters elevation and above as a base level. So you really need to be aware of things like altitude sickness, those types of things. So cardio, health-wise, all that sort of stuff, very important. And unfortunately, it's the one thing that I've been slacking off on a lot while I've been home. When I came home, I had a plan to, you know, be very active, get very healthy, and in preparation for this hike. And I'm being honest with you, since you are the people that watch my videos, I have not done that. I have been enjoying my time home, like I said, with family, with friends, spending a lot of time with Lynn, and just been enjoying life. It's been very relaxing, it's been very comforting, and it's been very good for the mind and the soul and all those sorts of things. So I don't regret it whatsoever. In fact, I think it's just as important to work on those things as it is everything else. Having said that, I still plan on doing the hike, and I still plan on doing some training to get ready for it. As of now, it is just very early August. I still have a couple of months to get ready before I even plan on leaving. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm planning on using the next 2-ish months or so to really spend some time getting ready to do that hike. I found some really great resources online. I've talked to a number of different people who have done the hike, and I still feel confident that I can accomplish it. One of the things that they always say that is most important with that hike is to take your time and go slowly and feel the symptoms that you're having and adjust. I think that the average person is about 14 days in total. It's usually about 8 to 10 days up, and then, you know, about 4 days back down. Coming down, obviously, much easier, not working against gravity, all those sorts of things. I'm acutely aware that I need to do a better job of preparing for that. So that's, like I said, one of the first things I'm going to be doing. The other aspect of this, of course, is cost. Flying from Canada to India, doing the trek, spending another 2+ months wandering around India, is a lot of time, it is a lot of money, and so I've been trying to work towards saving for that trip. As you know, the past 2 years on the road was totally self-funded. I had no sponsorships. I had no advertising deals other than the obvious YouTube advertising. I've never charged anything to access any of my information on my website. None of that. I've given it all away for free. And I paid all of it by myself. And I'm still very confident and very proud of what I've done. I don't think that I've had to change one moment of anything that I've made as a result of pressure from anyone else. Been able to do it totally on my own, in my own style. As I've talked about before, I shoot all my own video, I do my own travel planning, I do all the editing on my videos, I do all the voiceovers and talking to the camera just like this. Social media, website development, photography, all of it has been totally done by me 100%. And it's allowed me to gain experience. It's allowed me to learn some things, figure out what I'm capable of, which, surprising to me, has been way more than I expected. When I started this 2.5 years ago, I never thought for a second I could stand in front of a camera and talk to a bunch of people around the world. So I'm very grateful to everyone who has watched so far. I think that, I really appreciate I've had some people who've been subscribed since the beginning, who continue to support me and have done a wonderful job of that. This video is not asking anybody for anything. I'm not here to beg for money. I'm not here to say, oh, I have no money left, because I do. But I think it's important to be honest with you and say that this trip is going to be expensive. So I'm continuing to work on funding, things like that. I've applied for some grants here in Canada for digital media creators and those types of things. Things that are available to me that I've never explored before, but I think are worthy of my time to go and investigate. I've also been working sort of in the background, talking to a couple of different companies about, not really partnerships, but more sort of, they have some products that they want me to advertise for them. And so I'm looking at some different options for that without making it annoying, I guess is the best way to put it. There's nothing worse to me than someone who starts shoving products in every video, cutting away from the content to talk about a product for the second half of the video, or sell you a school, or sell you a membership, or something like that. I don't want to do any of that. People would say, and people have told me, that I'm crazy for not pursuing more of that stuff. But that's just who I am. That's just my makeup. I have never felt like I've been very comfortable with any of those sorts of things. But at the same time, I also have to be realistic and realize that if I want to continue to do this going forward, there are costs involved. There are things that I would like to do that would require more funding, those types of stuff. So those are some of the avenues I am looking at. If you have ever thought about supporting me in any way, now would be the time. I'm not going to get into, all the different specifics and offer subscriptions and offer, classes and paywall content or any of that stuff. I'm just going to very simply say I have a Patreon, which you can subscribe to for as low as $1 a month. I have a PayPal link here on the screen, as well as in the description down below, if you'd like to donate. And third and last, I have a Bitcoin address, again, down below or here on the screen with the QR code. If you wanted to donate to me to prepare for my next leg of my journey, now would be the time, but I don't want anybody to feel like they're pressured to do so. If you can't afford it, that's no problem. I'm just glad you're here. I'm glad you've subscribed. I'm glad you like and comment on my videos. That to me is just as important. But if you wanted to, please feel free. I appreciate it. Every dime that I receive goes back into this project. Again, I have been fully self-funded up to this point. I've done all the work myself, And I wanted to continue to be able to do all that work myself without getting into things like heavy sponsorships, advertising, you know, all that sort of stuff. So that's all I'm going to say about it. If you want to check it out, links are down below. That's it. I appreciate it either way. So getting back to the hike, as I said, it is about 8 to 10 days up. You start in Kathmandu, you fly or overland to where the airport is, and then from there you start your hike. It is a dirty hike, it is dusty, it is cold at night. You know, it is all the things that maybe you don't get to see a lot of in a lot of videos from other people. They always try to show you the highlights, you know, just the best parts of the trip. The beautiful scenery, but they don't show you the 8 hours that they were hiking up out of breath, sweaty the whole time to get to that view. So I really want to bring everybody along with me and show you exactly what's involved in that whole process. And I'm really excited about that. I think it's going to be a really cool way to look at things, and it'll be a nice different perspective on that type of stuff. So I'm going to go inside. I'm going to kind of talk about the route that you take on the Everest Base Camp hike a little bit, talk about some of the different stops along the way to kind of give you an idea of what to expect on that journey. I expect that this trip from Canada to India and back should be about 3 months in total. That includes, you know, 2.5, maybe 3 weeks for the Everest Base Camp hike, and then checking out as much of northern India as I can along the same time. So I'm very excited. You know, I'll be back to my bi-weekly schedule with that series and showing you everything along the way, showing you the good, the bad, the sweaty, and the ugly, no doubt. But I sort of saw it as a next big challenge for me. You know, I hiked a volcano in El Salvador near Santa Ana, you know, last summer, and I had such a great feeling when I finished it, such a great feeling of accomplishment, that I really wanted to tackle something even bigger and better. And so that's what this is going to be. In an upcoming video, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the routine that I'm using to try and get healthier, some of the food that I'll be making to try and get healthier, all that kind of stuff, because I really want to show you the behind the scenes look at what it's like to prepare for something like that. Again, as someone who's 50 plus years old, who has, you know, a bad heel, and trying to adjust as necessary to make sure I can accomplish these things. I'm also going to show you a breakdown of the different places I have planned to visit, from the far north of India, you know, down to about the midpoint and some of the highlights in between. Certainly not an exhaustive list, certainly not a list that will end up being set in stone. You know, some places may get added, some may get subtracted. Just kind of depends on how everything feels. So having said all that, let's go inside and have a look at my plans. I'll talk a little bit, like I said, about the places I'm going in India, the places along the route for the Everest Base Camp hike, and give you an idea of what the last 3 months of 2026 are going to look like for WanderBeard.
12 seconds later.
So I'm back inside, and I thought I would kind of go through the different stages of the Everest Base Camp hike. While I'm here, I can show it to you here on the screen at the same time as I'm talking to you, and then also kind of look at the different places in the northern half of India that I wanted to check out. So I'll start first with the Everest Base Camp hike, because I think that is, you know, the bigger challenge. Obviously, it's the far more interesting thing, I think, for a lot of people, and kind of talk through the different stages and some of those different points of interest. So everyone starts the Everest Base Camp hike in Kathmandu, and typically what happens from there is you get a flight. It's only about 20 or 30 minutes, I believe, up to Lukla, which is where the Tenzing Hillary Airport is. It is one of the most challenging airports to land at in the world. It's a very short runway. It has a bit of a dip to it, and it comes up against a very steep wall at the other end. So lots of people talk about how exciting and exhilarating of a flight that is. I think what I might do is maybe depart from there on the plane, but I think for the purposes of my trip, I wanted to make sure that I do the whole thing overland. So one of the things you can do then is they're actually, just last year, 2025, they've actually added some new roads up to near Lukla from Kathmandu. 4x4 vehicles make the trek all the time. So typically what you can do is you can pay for a seat in one of those 4x4 trucks and then go up that way. So once you get to Lukla, the trip actually sort of begins from there. That's where the hike sort of originates from, and that's where, you know, the whole experience sort of begins. And the first part of the trip is actually going from Lukla to Phakding, which is at about 2,600 meters in elevation. It's about a 3 to 4 hour hike, I believe, and it's one of the few parts of the hike to Everest Base Camp that's actually a bit of a descent. So you walk into there, you cross over the Dingboche River, and then, you know, the big trick, I think, from my understanding, is to take it slow. Especially in those first few days with the different elevations and the different, you know, adjustments that you need to make in order to be able to hike at elevation. Everyone will often tell you, you know, just go slowly. It's not a race. Take your time. So day 3, from Phakding to the Namche Bazaar is sort of your first big test. It is about an 11-kilometer trek up through the mountains. There's an elevation gain of about 700 to 800 meters during that time, and it's a good hike. You know, it is about 4 to 5 hours up through the mountains, and the last couple of hours, especially, are some of the hardest hours of the entire hike. They are basically a straight, you know, not quite that much, more like that, uphill to get to the suspension bridge, to walk through the national park there, and then eventually you get to Namche Bazaar, which is also your first look at Everest from the hike. Need some clear weather for that, obviously, but from my understanding is that that's sort of your first beautiful view of the whole mountain range. So once you get to Namche Bazaar, the next day is basically you spend it there. You don't hike on day 4 or so. You just take it easy. You acclimatize to the elevation, explore the market. And Namche Bazaar is world famous for a reason. It is one of the coolest looking places that you will see. You know, lots of markets, lots of vendors, lots of, you know, companies trying to offer you trek packages and all that sort of stuff. Like, it is ground zero sort of for a lot of the Sherpas and those types of things in the region. So some of the other things you can do while at the Namche Bazaar is, you know, things like the viewpoint itself. The Hillary School is there. They're worth checking out some of the local monasteries. So much more. There's, you know, you could spend a couple of days in Namche just checking out the local culture, history, all of that. And that's actually something I might end up doing myself, is taking 2 days to kind of spend there. I am not rushing through this hike. I already know that I will be slower than, you know, the average person up there, and that is totally okay with me. The point of this is not to race to the finish. The point is to experience it all before I get to the finish. So after you leave Namche and the Namche Bazaar, your next few days really are spent climbing up to Tengboche and Dingboche. Both of these are, you know, very high up at this point. You are well above the 3,000 meter elevation point. I want to say 4 to 5 hours per day. You go down along a river, follow the river for a while. You climb up through these beautiful forests and stuff again on the other sides. And then you reach the Tengboche monastery, and, you know, right around 3 p.m. or so, I've been told that if you're there at just the right time, you can go in and listen to the prayers, and I guess it's a very magical experience, and that's something that I think will be really, really amazing to see in person. The next 2 days, days 6 and 7 officially, for me it could be days 7 and 8 or 8 and 9 even, I don't know. You push deeper and heading up into Dingboche, which at this point you're now up around 4,000 to 4,400 meters in elevation. So, you know, you're gradually continuing to climb up through the mountains higher and higher at every point. That's why I think that the acclimatization day in Namche is so important, because as you continue to climb, you need to be more and more resilient for the elevation and those types of things. And I think that that's why it's good to, and everyone says the same thing: take a day, take 2 days, whatever you want, just to make sure that you can kind of prepare yourself for what's to come. So once you arrive in Dingboche, the recommendation is, again, this is a second day of acclimatization for resting, recovery, and preparation for what's ahead. There are some beautiful sights to see there while you're in the area. You're pretty much above the tree line at this point too, so you have this open view of everything around you, all of the mountains, the snow-capped peaks, the valleys below, the rivers, everything. It's all wide open to you there. So at that point, if you're still going, the views up there get really, really incredible, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that myself. So the last couple days after you leave Dingboche, to hike up to you're almost at the end of the trek at this point. You're hiking up to a place called Lukla, which is near the Lukla Pass. Of course, at that elevation, the nights are cold. You're getting into Lukla and you're talking -10, -15, -20 degrees at night. It is cold. And that is why they recommend that you prepare for the cold with a proper sleeping bag, proper cold weather gear. Some of the things they also recommend is making sure you increase your water intake, those types of things, making sure that you are listening to your body and making sure that you're making all the right decisions to be able to continue forward. So after that, your final day of the hike is from Lukla to Gorakshep, which is where the last town before Everest. At that point, you drop, from what I understand, you kind of drop your gear off there and you finish the final hike on your own up to the Everest Base Camp, which is at an elevation of 5,364 meters above sea level. And there is the final destination of the hike up through the trek. It's a very tough hike up at that point. Lots of big rocks, lots of glacial ice, potentially, those types of things. There's lots of expedition tents and things around. There'll be a lot of activity happening up in that area. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that and getting there and getting that moment of satisfaction knowing that I've been able to complete that. I'm never going to be a mountaineer. I am never going to hike Everest, any of those types of things. So for me, at my age, my fitness level, all those types of things, being able to complete this Everest Base Camp hike, to me, is the ultimate achievement. And for me, if I can get to the Everest Base Camp hike, that to me will be the pinnacle accomplishment for me. I, have set out to do this plan, to execute on it, to complete the hike, to get to there. It will be a very, very overwhelming moment, and I'm very excited for it to happen. So once you get to the base camp, fun fact, you can actually see Everest from there. It's actually blocked by another mountain. So from here, you have a couple of options. You can either accept the views that you've had up to this point and say mission accomplished and I'm really happy with it all, or you can push through up to Patthar, I believe is how you pronounce it. It's at about 5,500 meters or so, and it has apparently this breathtaking view of Everest from there that you can see the entire mountain range. Haven't decided if I'm going to add that on to the end or not. We'll see how I feel at that point. I'm pretty sure that the views that I've had up to that point will be more than satisfactory to consider this a successful mission. So once you get to there, the only thing you have left to do is go back down. And you basically retrace your steps through the towns you've already hiked. So it's all downhill the way back, with the exception of your last brief climb from Phakding back up to Lukla, and that's where the trek is completed. So again, 10 to 14 days is usually what it takes people. I suspect it'll take me at least 14 days. I'm planning on spending a couple of days in Namche Bazaar and a couple of days in Dingboche. Both are acclimatization days anyway, but I thought it'd be a really kind of a nice place to check out some of the local culture and explore a little bit. I'm not just there just to power through this hike from start to finish and skip everything in between. I would actually like to go out and see the towns that I'm passing through, learn a little bit while I'm there, and I think that all becomes part of the experience, at least for me. So it's about 130 kilometers in total, start to finish. There'll be lots of cold nights, there'll be lots of altitude headaches, there will be lots of jaw-dropping views, and I'm sure there'll even be moments where I want to quit and just give up and go back down. But I am committed to completing this. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. Again, you know, I'm type 2 diabetic. I have bone spurs in one of my heels. I am not in the most physically good shape at the moment, but I'm going to work through all these things and prepare myself to go and execute on this and complete it. After completing that poll that I issued about a week or so ago on my YouTube channel, there does seem to be some interest in doing another top 10. I originally framed it as a top 10 of Nicaragua, but what I've decided to do instead of that is I'm going to do a top 30 of Central America. This will be all the countries that I visited after leaving Mexico. So you'll have Belize, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama. I'm going to sort those into a list of 30. I'm going to create a 3-part series, just like I did for Mexico. And those will be 3 videos that are coming up very soon. Thank you very much to everybody who watched the Mexico series as well. It really exceeded my expectations. The feedback, the comments, the discussions about where certain places should rank over others has been awesome. And that's the kind of content that I want to continue to provide to you. So that will be coming up within the next couple weeks. And remember, life is short. Wander. And I'll see you in the next video.